Yeah. So here's a story of how I tried to buy Snapchat, not the stock, but the whole company, um, and what I learned from it. So a little bit of context. I was stuck in between India and Dubai, because Dubai is where my parents live. Moved back there and moved around between Dubai and India to get my surgery done. So I was basically out of the US for a year in 2024. I come back in December 2024 in San Francisco to continue working on my startup, get funding, get co-founders, all that sort of thing. April, this goes on till April 2025. And I decide that the working on this company doesn't make sense for a bunch of reasons, and I'm looking for things to do. Um, and what happens is I'm in SF. I have a roommate issue um, to do with the amount of rent payment that was due, and I disagreed. I think the way I communicated it should have been much better, but that was the issue, and I decided to just dip because the guy was forcing me to pay. Um, so I was in SF, effectively homeless. I was homeless for like a good a good like 15 hours because the Airbnb I could book was only available like 1 p.m. the next day. Not a great Airbnb, it was in some hostel thing. So I have like 15 hours, right? And I'm trying really hard to not fall asleep because if I fell asleep, my stuff would get stolen. And so my first task is to find a place to be, some 24-hour place that was open and relatively safe. And the only place that met those requirements was this coffee shop in San Francisco that was somehow 24 hours. It was in a nice neighborhood. I think this was near Pacific Heights. Um, it was a nice neighborhood. You could tell all the every super rich neighborhood has like a bunch of these boutiques that you've never heard of before. And you know that they lose money. So it's financed by some, rich guy or, something else that's going on because the boutique actually is a bad business. Anyway, find this coffee shop 24/7. I buy myself a coffee, keep myself going. Also get a sausage, egg and cheese, best sausage egg and cheese I've had till date. Get a little sriracha, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like this, just awake, trying not to fall asleep. And I see these tweets from this guy who's this billionaire, super successful entrepreneur, very um, iconic internet 2.0 entrepreneur. I'm currently an investor and still active. Very nice guy too. And he tweets something about Snapchat and how they should do a buyback and whatnot. I'm not taking his name out of respect because I don't want to bother him with the request to use his name. It just feels very wrong because he's a nice person. I don't want to bother him. But he tweets something about Snapchat, and I think, what how could you fix Snapchat? Right? And I put a timer on my iPhone. And I give myself 5 minutes to come up with um, how to fix a company. This is a challenge to focus my brain and to kind of take my brain off from being sleepy. Give myself 5 minutes, and before the 5 minutes, the three bullet points pop up in my head. Number one, fire, do a massive layoff. Um, there was a lot of wasteful spending in terms of compensating people with stock, what's known as stock-based compensation or restricted stock units. So a lot of money was being wasted by the company on this form of compensation. R&D spend, which is research and development spend by Snapchat, has not yielded any long-term outcome. They've spent hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars on AR, on a bunch of other stuff, but they missed the boat on the kind of recommendation system that TikTok invented, which is you open the app and it basically in like 5 to 10 scrolls. It figures out what you like and is very good at giving you the kind of content that you might like. So they missed the boat on that, which they didn't. They totally could have done, but they missed. Um, they were first with spectacles, but they could not get the engineering right to do that. So all this money they've spent on R&D was wasted. All this money spent on employees was wasted because they have too much employees, especially on the R&D side, and that didn't yield any good outcomes. So this was my first suggestion. So cost reduction, fire a bunch of people, um, reduce employee spending, and rationalize R&D spending. The second thing was really get aligned around AR, um, augmented reality. Now, the interesting thing about this is that I think I published the memo on my Substack just for like documentation. I wasn't going to promote this too much. Must have been May, and like sometime in October or something, Evan Spiegel, the CEO, goes on the TBPN podcast and he shares this and he does this interview with CNBC and he's talking about AR. And I think I hear they're in talks to raise money for the AR thing, for the new AR division. So this is point number two, AR, right? To build new AR, to build AR technology capability to buy founders in the AR space and to bring them on board as like VPs and like senior management of the company. Uh, I messaged one guy who's a founder of a AI device company. And I say I respect your work. Would you like to come on board? If this gets through as like a senior like management person. And he said, I'm never selling and I'm never working for this company again. I was like, okay, all right, like your dick isn't big enough to say that. I was like, okay, cool, thank you. And that was it. Point number three was to partner with Niantic. Now, Niantic is a company that made Pokemon Go. And now when I was in high school, Pokemon Go really hit a moment, and Pokemon Go is still a significant cultural phenomena. And um, what Niantic has had done with that game is fantastic. And I thought Snapchat should make a partnership with Niantic to to bring experiences, to bring games and other sort of things that were only available to the Snapchat Plus subscribers. Snapchat Plus is the premium subscriber model that Snapchat has offered to customers in addition to just their free product. And this was the plan, and it just made sense. And for me with business, like and it's not a brag, but I think I have informed myself. I've studied so much that like in seconds I can tell if it feels right or not. And this really felt right to me. So I spent a few more I spent some more time thinking about how it could go wrong, and I couldn't find out. Usually I can within like I don't know, if I can't find anything wrong with the plan, in 10 thinking cycles, it's probably a good plan. Things could, still go wrong. I'm prone to bias, but it's been usually a good heuristic for me. So a few hours pass. I'm at the hostel where I'm gonna check in at the Airbnb. Um, must have been like 11 a.m. or 11:30 a.m. Somewhere around there, afternoon. Beautiful morning it was. I remember it was beautiful. It was sunny, beautiful blue sky. San Francisco, lovely, lovely, lovely blue sky. And I'm in the hostel, and I text the person, the billionaire person I spoke about previously, and I was like, "Hey, this is my sort of 3 point bullet plan. What do you think? Sorry if this bothered you. Would you be interested in being an anchor for this buyout?" Um, so now an anchor is basically the key person responsible for providing money when you're trying to do a big transaction. I mean, you're trying to buy a company, there's usually one or two people who put up like most of the money or significant minority of the money involved in the deal, right? And I didn't expect anything. I was like, this is kind of fun. This is like a kind of big joke. It'll be a good story. He just, I think he replied within like half an hour or an hour or something. He just said yes. And I was like, I had so much anxiety. I'm like, what do I say? Say thank you. Took me a couple of hours to like respond, which is bad habit I'm still trying to work on. I'm trying to get faster at replying. Um, but yeah, he said yes. So then I just reached out to a bunch of people who I thought would be a good fit for the deal. Um, so two, hedge fund managers mostly because I wanted people with public balance sheets who could act and kind of demonstrate credibility. Two interesting stories here. One was I was trying to get in touch with a billionaire who was I shouldn't name, but I think people will figure this out if I give the additional context. Like this guy did a very, very good, in my opinion, very good campaign, activist campaign with Disney. And I thought if he did the deal on the activist campaign in Disney, and he had experience with buyouts. Yeah, his career actually started with buyouts in the food and beverage space. I thought this is a great fit. Uh, I tried to call his. I kept calling his fund. I called the fund's New York office and the Miami office. Nobody picked up. Um, and eventually people started picking up, and I said, and they were very, very nice. And they were like, oh, okay, maybe leave a voicemail, and they forwarded my calls. And but I don't think I presented myself as credibly as I should have, although I didn't know how to. I mean, I had no money, and trying to get people to do a buyout, I mean, is a pretty crazy undertaking. So anyhow, like I try to get to this person, doesn't work. So I see, I keep going through, and I find his son is listed as one of the directors, and I was able to find his son's phone number pretty easily. So I have my little list of notes, and I have my points, and I'm freaking out, right? Because I don't want to make this call. It's like terrifying to make this call. I don't have experience doing this. Eventually, I man up and I decide to make the fucking call. And I call him and I'm like, hey, so and so, Mr. So and so, I loved your father and your firm's campaign with Disney. Would be great if you guys would, I would love to explain how this deal works and would love for you guys to be an anchor. Um, and his only question was, how did you get my number? And I had to like do this and like stop myself from laughing. It wasn't a public SEC filing. That's a crazy thing that I realized from that is like people don't look at SEC filings. Like there's so much information in SEC filings. I don't even think like most financial analysts comb through every SEC filing you can because there is dirt, there is hidden information that's like right there in some random SEC filing about any company in the world right now. Like there's some weird accounting thing, there's some weird revenue recognition thing, there's some, weird, line on the 50th page of like a 200-page SEC filing that like, you know, was like not publicized, right? Like there's always something hidden in an SEC filing. Anyway, so I call this guy, he's like, yep, not a fit. And the funny thing is this fund is doing a deal with a very famous venture capital firm who I've actually taken a meeting with 3 years ago. Uh, and they're trying to buy a an incumbent. I'm not going to say which industry because that'll give away the firm. And again, I do not want to get sued. Uh, but yeah, so that was interesting. I was dying laughing. The other thing was I also tried to get Bill Ackman's interest on this. I'll say because Bill Ackman, I think, is comfortable with attention, so I think I can drop his name. I don't think he's gonna get angry. Seems like a nice guy, actually. Chill, funny guy. So I keep calling his firm. I don't think these hedge funds expect any rando to call their fund. And these funds have to put their phone number and address for regulatory purposes, right? Like they have to show that they have a real phone number, they have a real address, to the SEC. And I don't think people randomly call, hedge funds because it's not, they're worried about the reputation or whatever. But I don't give a fuck. So I just kept calling this guy, and I emailed Bill Ackman and his associate Francis McGill or Francine McGill. I can't remember his name properly. And I emailed him and I called his firm so many times that I knew all the assistants' names. The assistant that was the nicest to me was Mercedes. Super, super nice lady. Um, and yeah, that was kind of crazy. I mean, imagine calling a firm, a hedge fund so many times and knew the assistants' names. So that was real interesting. But you know, the thing about this was I don't I don't think I learned a lot from like an investing perspective. I think it was pretty simple to me. I think the kind of core execution of it, the core strategy around it, how this would get done, I think it was pretty obvious to me in about 5 to 10 minutes, right? In less than 5 minutes, actually. So it was more so, looking up. It was more so getting practice. I think even I don't think putting together a buyout is like particularly difficult cognitive. It's more so like making the phone calls, making the emails, convincing people. It's more of a people job than like a cognitive thing. I think the math around like a buyout is pretty easy. Like you should be able to, if you're an investor, if you're a financial person, you should be able to get the feel of a deal in like less than 30 seconds. And like if you're not able to get the feel of a deal in 30 seconds, that's probably not a good sign. But more importantly, in that 30 seconds, you should be able to figure out like what are the list of questions that I need to like really understand deeply to further reach confidence as to whether this feels good or not. And that shouldn't take you more than 30 minutes. And if it's taking you more than 30 minutes, you shouldn't be an investor. Um, so, but the interesting thing was I didn't really the thing I learned the most about was the consumer social space, not because I sat and I did a bunch of research about the social media space in a sort of retroactive historic sense, um, but if you just let your brain marinate on a problem, right? If you let your brain just sit with something for long enough, it'll feed you things that you didn't know before, and it'll feed you questions to look for things you didn't know before. And I really deeply understood the consumer social space, or I felt like I did after I realized that there's actually an opportunity, for a new thing. So this goes on, that doesn't work out. Whatever, I get frustrated. I was looking for something to do after my last company, and I really wanted the money. I wanted to get like a car, basic things that I was avoiding, um, for a while. Um, and yeah, it didn't work out. I was burnt out. I'm in San Jose by this point, and I've been watching a bunch of Rick and Morty, um, and seeing all these AI demos, the ones around the Google demos around text to video generation really caught my eye. I was watching this thing that they did, which is called Flow, and Flow is sort of a fake TV channel with all these where you can flip through channels of different video generations. And a day goes by, I go get some Mexican food. It is cooking in San Jose. This is the thing that people don't understand about the Bay Area. San Jose is actually hot. during the summer. It is hot. Um, SF is very pleasant during the summer because it is on a like the altitude difference really makes a difference. And cooking in San Jose, I grabbed some Mexican food, having a bit of reflux because I ate too much. It's not good. And my body is getting cooked from the heat. I'm having like a shock reaction and I pass out. 30 minutes later, I wake up and I realize, what if you could make interdimensional cable from Rick and Morty, which is the sort of infinite TV concept. It's basically television from every dimension and every, universe possible. Interdimensional cable, that's what it's called in this TV show, Rick and Morty. So what if you could make that? What would that really involve? So I sit and just think about that scenario. What would interdimensional cable be like if you actually had to like build it in real life? It's kind of an absurd problem to think about, and I'm kind of like I'm scratching my head for a day, as to how to do it. But the initial thing was it would be some sort of program out, dynamic humor generation system, and I kind of sketched out the rough what that would look like pretty quick. And I spent a month thinking about this and just having fun with it. Um, and by this time, I've moved to New Jersey, so I got bored of the Bay Area and I wanted to see New York in the summer. It was one of the things on my checklist. And I moved to the East Coast by this point, and I'm thinking about this idea more. And that's when it hits me that this humor thing is the last thing that's not been solved by AI. And the way to actually solve humor at scale is to build like a humor generation, like consumer social, consumer entertainment app. And that's when I get the idea for my next thing. And I realize actually this nobody knows much about this space. So maybe I should write a book about this. Maybe I should write some papers about this, and that's kind of how I found my next thing, and that's what I'm working on right now. There's a book that I'm writing. It's called Seriously Funny. Working on an app. I do not know when this is going to get done. Because it is subject to real world constraints, unlike a book. Which is just yourself. I will try to make a demo, but I don't know when that will get done. But yeah, I'm working on a book which explains how humor's evolved over time, the theories that were used to explain humor, um, the different experiments that were done to teach computers to be funny, and how humor can be solved, and why solving humor leads to super intelligence, which is kind of my big pitch. Um, and I'm certain that I don't think I would have seen the execution of consumer app solving computational humor solves super intelligence. Like the consumer app thing was in my head from the Snapchat, trying to buy Snapchat, try to do a buyout of Snapchat thing. Um, so yeah, it's funny how these things work out and everything is connected. Um, yeah, that's one thing I've learned is yeah, you never know what one thing leads to. It is as a young person, it is very important to remain cognizant of that. And serendipity is the best thing. It doesn't mean you don't have long-term plans, but yeah, boy, life does surprise you. But anyway, that's what I'm working on right now. I'm working on a book, and I'm working on an app. It's going to be a very very fun experience. You're going to have two modes. One is a kind of infinite scenario generation. You scroll through it, it'll generate infinite, kind of funny clips based on what user preference you demonstrate. And if you like a clip, you can just push a button and keep extending that. That's the app. And the second there's actually a second fun feature, which is kind of a more social feature, which is what I'm kind of really excited about, and I think people would really enjoy. Um, it's kind of like a modern it's like a remix of what BeReal was, but it'll be more fun. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. And yeah, that is the story of uh how I tried to buy Snapchat, and what I learned from it, and how that connects to what I'm doing right now. I've taken a break from doing this. Um, but I'll be doing a lot more of these podcast things. I think I'm gonna actually start streaming. So yeah, this is gonna be fun. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for making it till the end. Please follow what I do. I'm active on Twitter, where I see a lot of unsavory things, but it's all in good fun. And yeah, hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the year, and see you soon.